Today marks 6 months of war in Gaza, 6 months since the horror of October 7th and the deadly terror attack on Israel that killed more than 1,200 Israelis, with more than 100 hostages still believed to be held by Hamas. It's also been 6 months of Israel's devastating response, causing widespread destruction across Gaza and taking the lives of more than 33,000 Palestinians, according to the Hamas-run health ministry, and leaving the territory on what the UN has called the brink of famine. But it was the loss of 7 aid workers this week that seemed to galvanize a new level of outrage. These 7 individuals from around the world, including one dual American-Canadian citizen, working with the relief group World Central Kitchen, killed by repeated drone strikes of their clearly marked convoy, despite the group having coordinated their location and movements with the IDF. World Central Kitchen was founded by renowned chef turned philanthropist José Andrés, his organization providing meals around the globe in the most dire circumstances, from the aftermath of natural disasters like earthquakes and hurricanes to war zones from Ukraine to Gaza, where World Central Kitchen has served millions of meals to Palestinians. That work now paused after the attack that Israel admits was a grave mistake. So I sat down with Chef José Andrés to discuss his emotional response to the death of his colleagues and what he believes both the Israeli and U.S. government should be doing to address this war's deadly toll. At what point did it sink in for you, the enormity of this loss?
Well, has not sink in yet. I'm still going through the process. But there's a lot of work to be done. We are a small organization, and right now we are in the middle of this a story that we wish we were not part of. We are an organization that we want to go to difficult places and bring food to people and bring joy to people. Because people, when it's about food and water, they need you today. So for me, I think the grief is going on, especially the members I knew closely. Somi, I spent a lot of time with her in missions. She was always a joy and was a very beloved member of the community. She's like a sister. Damien, who was a newest member, and so this hits home because that's people I serve next to, and they're the example of who we are, and that they putting themselves in harm's way to try to bring hope and smiles to others.
You wrote a very emotional tweet this week about Zomi, saying, "I wish I never founded your organization. You would be alive somewhere today, smiling and making somebody somewhere feel like they were the most beloved person in the world." You said you wish you'd never founded World Central Kitchen.
You know, I will forever have to live with this, as well as the families and all the members of World Central Kitchen. I founded it with one very simple idea: can we provide food and water quicker than anybody else? Obviously, something like this makes you think. We did what we did because there's a lot of people that are always forgotten, people that are always voiceless. I know very often it's many people that joined the organization because they saw me doing the work before. And this began being an organization of one that became an organization of millions. And these are 7 internationals, 6 internationals plus Saif, the Palestinian, who is buried, and I received the photo from his father, his family, on where he is already resting. And this has become news because it's 6 internationals that they've been impacted by this war, and where they're dead now, many are mourning. This comes with a risk, and we try to minimize the risk. Who was going to tell me the day we were kind of celebrating that we had armored vehicles? Finally, armored vehicles that were very well marked, that we were doing the right protocols, that we were engaging with the IDF in the way we all should be doing. Like every minute, everybody knew where everybody was. Who was going to tell me that these protocols will break in such a way?
The initial report released Friday calling the drone strikes a grave mistake that should not have happened. Satisfied with that report?
Well, I want to thank, obviously, the IDF for doing such a quick investigation. But at the same time, I would say something so complicated, the investigation should be much more deeper. And I would say that the perpetrator cannot be investigating himself. But I would say we need more information. We need to see better quality videos. We need to be saying what was the conversations, the radio conversations between the different officers and soldiers in charge of saying that those cars were a target because they were an imminent threat. Those weapons can only be used with very sophisticated drones. And we all know that those drones have high capabilities, day and night, with cameras that can see in very powerful way what's going on.
That's one of the things that they said, is that they could not, because it was night, see the logo from World Central Kitchen, which was so clear on top of the vehicle in the daytime. They said they couldn't see it at night. Do you buy that?
Obviously, I would like to see high quality of the video, high quality of the images. I'm very sure that probably those logos were visible. They were white cars. That logo is very colorful. Even in a dark night, I guarantee you that those drones could be seen.
They say that their drone video, and this has not been verified, this video, that they say shows Hamas operatives, and they thought one fired from an aid truck.
Every time something happens, we cannot just be bringing Hamas into the question. I think IDF knows better than anybody that can be a better army. It should be protocols, should be rules of engagement, that somebody has to be making sure that they happen in a war zone. It's way too many cases now of humanitarians dying. Many civilians, women, children, that the only thing they did was trying to get close by to somewhere that they were giving them flour or bread. This is not anymore about the 7 men and women of World Central Kitchen that perished on this unfortunate event. This is happening way for too long. It's been 6 months of targeting anything that seems moves. This doesn't seem a war against terror. This doesn't seem anymore a war about defending Israel. This really, at this point, seems it's a war against humanity itself. That's why, yes, I'm requesting Israel, I'm requesting Prime Minister, I'm requesting IDF, that this investigation and many others should be done right, should be done in an independent way. So not only for World Central Kitchen family, for the families of the deceased, but for every other NGO that has been targeted or has lost members, to exactly understand how the IDF has been operating, so IDF can learn from it. We can all learn from it.
Jose, you said earlier this week in an interview, we were targeted deliberately, nonstop, until everybody was dead in this convoy. Do you believe at this point, from what you have seen, that they were deliberately targeted? Your aid group?
That the convoy was deliberately attacked is obvious. The precision, the continuous following over 1.8 kilometers until the 3 cars were totally destroyed, and all the members inside those 3. Obviously, this was a targeted. We could argue that the first one, let's say, was a mistake. The second, the third.
Do you believe World Central Kitchen was targeted on purpose?
My humanity tells me that, obviously, I don't want to believe that World Central Kitchen was targeted. And probably this was not the case. Because offshore they knew our movements, offshore they knew our teams, offshore they were in direct contact with the different people that coordinate in these situations. But obviously this keeps happening. This breaking of communications keeps happening. Civilians must be protected. humanitarian organizations must be protected. There are people that have names and last names. There are people that matter. They cannot be voiceless. They cannot be ghosts of wars that don't make sense. Obviously, IDF has a lot of questions to ask themselves. What exactly are they there for? Are they there really to bring home safely all those hostages that still are suffering? Offshore, Israel had the right to defend itself. Offshore, what happened on October 7th to Israel is something should never happen. That was an atrocity.
Jose, we heard Benjamin Netanyahu first say before the investigation, it was a mistake. It happens in war.
If we simplify things in such a way as Prime Minister Netanyahu has done, we are losing all the basis of what humanity should be there for. If somebody knows suffering, that's the people of Israel. If somebody really understands the meaning of suffering, if somebody should be holding the highest standards of humanity, I would say that's also the people of Israel.
Netanyahu says they will do everything they can to make sure nothing like this happens again. Do you believe him?
It's a first step, but we know that leaders of the world and politicians, they give speeches that they never follow. These declarations of intentions needs to go alongside with real change of the people with boots on the ground.
You spoke to President Biden. Did you say to him what you're saying to me now?
I spoke as a person. I spoke as the founder of the organization. I spoke on behalf of the 7 people who are no longer with us. I spoke about the hundreds of other humanitarians that they are no longer with us. And I spoke about the thousands of civilians that probably they didn't have to be perishing in the way they are. I say, President Biden, you can, and America will stand behind you, support the right of Israel to defend themselves on this massive attack. But at the same time, I will say that President Biden also can be defending and supporting the right of Palestinians not to die just trying to be getting a piece of bread. I think both truths can live in the same place. You can be a friend of Israel, and at the same time, you can be telling your partner in the Middle East, you cannot be conducting war in such a way. You cannot be destroying every building, every hospital, every school, every university. You cannot be destroying just the future for decades of more than 2 million Palestinians. And in the process, leaving them hungry, leaving them without water, or what is even worse, you shooting them in the middle of the street in the process of trying to have access to food.
So, what the White House did this week, it seemed like a very significant shift, saying there would be consequences if they didn't allow essentially more humanitarian aid and take more care with civilian lives. Were you satisfied with that statement?
I think there will be consequences is part of the problem. Should be already consequences. Support Israel's right to defend itself, but you cannot be just given weapons that they are killing American citizens who are humanitarians. You can be supporting Israel's right to defend himself, but at the same time, you can be asking Israel to conduct themselves at the highest possible human level.
They opened 2 more crossings, the Israelis announced. Is that enough?
Obviously, it's a first step to open new entry points into Gaza, but at the same time, to make sure that they're open and hundreds of trucks can go through each one of them. This will be a first step. But at the same time, how we do it that is safe? Let's the humanitarian aid flow. Let's make sure that the IDF has a real reckoning on how they conduct war. Who are the enemy? Who really are they fighting?
Jose, not only have you suffered this tragedy and the loss of your employees, you care so much about getting humanitarian aid in there, about getting food in there, and you can't do it right now. So how and when can you come back?
We need to make sure that the humanitarians doing this work are safe. Hundreds have died, close to 200 already. In a way, I'm sad that there had to be the killing of 6 foreigners that brings all this outrage. Sometimes history is written, unfortunately, in moments like this. But if it's anything that the lives of these 6 heroes, brave souls, can bring, is just the real understanding of what's really happening in Gaza. The answer of why all the destruction cannot be because it's a Hamas operative in every building. We cannot be winning a war destroying the livelihoods of 2 million people. This is not the way to create safety for Israel. This is not the way to create safety for the Middle East. This is not the way to create safety for a better tomorrow. I don't believe in higher walls. I believe in longer tables. What is good for me must be good for you.
Your CEO said this was unforgivable. Despite what happens with the investigation, despite however more is done, is this unforgivable?
It is unforgivable. I will have to live with this the rest of my life. We all will have to live with this the rest of our lives. I've seen firsthand what has been happening in Ukraine. Entire towns and cities being wiped out by Russia and by Putin. What Prime Minister Netanyahu is doing is exactly the same. The best future we can be providing for our children is when we provide for the children of the people we don't know the same future and the same hope we are trying to provide for our own. What is so difficult to understand about that?
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.